and welcome to Movies, Films, and Flicks. I am Mark Hoffmeyer, and joining me is Adam Youngblood Hodgins.
Yes, I
How's your,
am.
was either that or Knight Rider?
Knight Rider. See, Knight Rider makes you think of David Hasselhoff, though, and that is not the reference you're making.
Mm-mm.
You're
No.
making it a very brooding and intentional Ed Harris.
Man, he broods so hard in Knight Riders.
Because our kids are now of the age, the kids that you can hear in our Peter Rabbit episode do the prologue to.
Our
Years
2-hour-long episode.
about Peter Rabbit. My very, very young kids at the time did a prologue for that movie. But now they're like teenagers now. They're 13 and 15. And so we watched as a family The Rock the other night.
Whoa.
And I think because it's like you look at that movie and you're like, yeah, it's a Nick Cage, Sean Connery picture. You forget all the heavy hitters that are also there.
Bro, Ed Harris, Bokeem Woodbine, Tony Todd, William Forsythe, huge, Michael Biehn.
Michael Biehn, right? And Michael Biehn should have got an Oscar for his scene where he's like, I know your men died, but this is not we like swore an oath to like that scene, like in the middle of a Michael Bay action movie, that guy's like, I'm gonna go win an Oscar. Hold my gun for a second, right? Like like that cut against like the Dolph Lundgren scene in the supermarket in
Universal Soldier,
right, where they just do these impassioned speeches. I was like, yes. So needless to say, that movie was a hit.
We should do an episode where we just talk about the best monologues in action films that come out of nowhere.
Yeah.
Where you just go, wait, am I still watching an action movie or am I watching Amadeus?
Right. And it's right too. Sometimes they come out of nowhere. Right.
The Universal Soldier one comes out of nowhere.
It does.
It hits.
The prototype for that is the ending of First Blood, right? Where it's kind of this like sort of dramatic action piece, and at the end, Stallone breaks, right? He just breaks down, and he's like, yeah, I'm gonna go act.
Yeah.
And he does it. And you're like, I think that set the tone for like in the middle of action movies, you can have these like soliloquies almost, these monologues of like, this is my character.
And not the Tarantino monologue that's like, hey, I'm from Philly, and then if you're from Philly, you're from here, and then if you're from here, you're from there, and then when you're over there, you're from here, that means you're this, and then if you're this, then that means you're that. No, not that speech. We're talking about the, put down your guns. No, like we're talking the Dolph Lundgren speech. And also I love that Rambo and Rocky started off as very serious character pieces.
Yeah.
And then they became just montages and destruction. Like people forget that both those movies, how sensitive they are.
Absolutely. I fell down a deep rabbit hole yesterday actually.
A real one, or because I've heard those stories from you before.
Big jackrabbit had dug a hole in my backyard, and I was down there for 4 or 5 hours just screaming. No one cared. No, all the like the awkward uncomfortableness about Creed 3 and Stallone.
Oh yeah.
Like that's. And again, I'm only hearing Stallone's side of it, but it's very sad that they kind of took his character from him.
Yeah, I mean, I like Creed 3. I think it's a good way to move on, but yeah, I haven't read much about it, so I can't. That's another episode.
Okay, well, I'm just saying I fell down that just to bounce off, like, especially Rocky, because that was what Stallone wrote. Like that was him just trying to be like, I want to tell a story. And you see that when people are saying, are we going to get another Rambo movie? His answer was always like, if I have a story to tell you, I'll make a movie. And I think that sometimes, I'd say 90% of the time in Hollywood now, it's let's make a movie and figure the story out later.
Absolutely. Yeah, we'll write it on the set. But Rocky Balboa, remember that came out? All the speeches about the beast inside, and he keeps a chair by Adrian's grave.
The chair in the tree, that's just like there, it gets you. And that movie started, so my mom and I, were movie buddies back in growing up. We were like Fiddler on the Roof and like the original Rocky, Man from Snowy River. We had these like movies that we would watch together, and so we love all the Rocky movies. Rocky 5 is not, it's also there. But when Rocky Balboa came out, I like called my mom. I was like, Mom, we got to go see this movie opening night. Like I'm gonna drive 4 hours to your house, pick you up, and you and I are gonna go see this opening night. And so the whole family went, and we drove there. And in the car, my mom was like, I don't know if we should do this because Rocky's so perfect. This might ruin it. Like we were very nervous that Rocky Balboa was going to like try and be something that it shouldn't have been. Right. And then the opening scene, he's got Spider Rico washing dishes at his restaurant. I was like, no, that was an integrity move right there.
I got the beast inside. Like, I still feel it. Like, ah. And then the guy breaks his hand in the final fight. And
yeah,
oh, my goodness.
That, and then Paulie, right? No matter what this is, Rock, leave it out there. Let's leave it out there, okay? No more.
That movie really caught me off guard. That's a good movie right there.
That is a good movie.
Sorry.
I also liked, like, later that year, Grudge Match came out. And I was like, he can make a fun boxing movie. Like, he can do this too. Right?
De Niro, Stallone, Kevin Hart. It's insane.
It's bananas, but it goes to show you that the same guy in like almost the same calendar year can make his heartfelt character-driven story and the popcorn goofy movie.
Oh, absolutely. And okay, I know I always talk about this, but that movie Driven, 2001. Yeah. If you buy the DVD, there's about an hour of deleted scenes that Stallone provides a commentary for. And he came on specifically to just be like, all of my scenes should have been in this movie, because they made it into like a mentor, like
right,
more about the kid racing. But Stallone goes through and watches all of his deleted scenes and does a commentary track, just cursing Rennie Harlan's name and just going like, this is the scene. So on the DVD, if you buy it, you will hear an hour's worth of Stallone just complaining that his scenes weren't in the movie.
So we got, because of internet whining, the Snyder cut. Should we start a petition for a 4-hour black and white cut of Driven? Release the Stallone cut.
We need it.
We need it.
Let's do it. Black and white.
Yeah.
Everything in slow motion. That's why it's 4 hours long.
Right.
A lot of...
Lots of Leonard Cohen soundtrack.
Yep. Cover songs. We need some... we need the Yeah Yeah Yeahs to come through and just do a ton of cover songs. I could listen to Karen O sing cover songs all day.
It's only going to be $30 million worth of extra visual effects that are required.
That's it.
That's it. Warner Brothers, this is not a no-brainer. HBO Max, it's going to be great.
Get Florence from the Florence and the Machine to do a bunch of covers. Just covers all day, slow motion, black and white, Driven.
So speaking of speeches in an action movie, and then so you talked about Driven, which made me think of the Rock movie Faster. That movie is just literally The Rock driving around shooting people. Like I'm not
Billy Bob Thornton.
Billy Bob Thornton's chasing him, like a drunk Billy Bob Thornton's chasing him. But it's literally Billy Bob being like, ugh, like waking up drunk. I gotta go find this guy. And then The Rock driving around, blowing people away. It's just that.
Yeah.
And then he gets this guy who's now become like a tent revival minister. He gives this like heartfelt, like out of nowhere speech on the beach. And then The Rock spares his life and kills other people. And I was like, where did that come from? Like, what movie is this? That's what I'm watching right now.
We need to talk. You've been talking about that movie since 2018, so we need to cover that eventually.
Yeah, it's a cool car and it's a cool gun. That's all I know about that movie.
Driven. 4 hour. It should be like Driven spelled backwards. What is that then? Nevered?
Never. Or you just make the D big, and then the R small, and the I big, and then the V small, and the E big, and the N small, so it says die.
That should be a die Rennie Harlan. Below it. That's the Stallone cut.
That's the Stallone cut. There's money there.
I'm crying.
I know Sly's listening. If you do this, I don't want a lot of the money. Just a little piece for that title, the title sequence card.
And Sly, I'll edit that episode we did about that movie Heartbreakers soon, and I'll put it up.
Right.
Imagine Sylvester Stallone talking about that movie. The three of us talking about Heartbreakers.
Yeah.
That'd be a good conversation.
It would be great, and then we could pitch him the idea about our cliffhanger burger joint.
Yep.
Get him in on that.
Oh, just go up to Colorado. You know how much money? Have you watched Yellowstone? We should go take some land in Montana.
Yeah.
Just destroy the land and open up 2 burger joints that are essentially the same but kind of different at the bottom of a skiing lodge, and we'll just serve burgers and hot cocoa.
I mean, he invested in Planet Hollywood.
Yeah. This is 2 restaurants.
It's 2 restaurants. It's a no-brainer. You are your competition.
Like, we're burgers. We're not Cheesecake Factory.
No. We do one thing, we do it well.
Exactly. Everyone needs a flagship item on their menu. They'll make it like hamburgers, McDonald's, cheeseburger.
Right.
Hey, these are good.
Like a few years ago, like 10, 12 years ago, McDonald's rebranded with like McCafe. Yeah. And they have this. I'm like, don't try and be something you're not. Just be nuggets and Big Macs.
People see through it. Just listen. Give me a coffee. I'm not saying McCafe.
No.
Too much going on with McCafe.
Well, so Tim Hortons was a Canadian staple coffee and donut. It was cash only. They didn't even do debit or credit. It was just cash only, and they did coffee and donuts and little cakes. That's all they did. And it was $1 million to buy a franchise. That's what a franchise cost to buy because you made the money back. It was all cash and it was quick. Coffee, donut, coffee, donut, coffee, donut, cookie. It was just that.
They're laundering money in those places.
And then Burger King bought Tim Hortons in Canada. They brought debit and credit in, and they started doing like wedges and sandwiches and near meat things and soups. And it turned into a thing where it's not quick anymore. They don't bake the donuts in house. They bring them in frozen. It's a whole different thing. And it's if you come to Canada, people are like, yeah, Tim Hortons isn't what it used to be. Like, so just do what you do well. There was no reason to change that model, right?
Just do it. And I mean, you may have to adapt, like Blockbuster did things well, and they did not stick with the times. So
if the entire medium goes away, if coffee stops being a thing, then Tim Hortons change their business model.
If Thanos snaps and half the coffee beans disappear.
Right.
That'd be fun. Like Rocket messes with the glove and that's what happens. Like I'd be so pissed. I'm like, take half humanity, not my coffee.
I wonder, Mark, if there is this will be another episode, but I'm gonna ask you the question anyways. Would there be money in or a business model in the social experience of a Blockbuster on a Friday night, but without renting something? So you go there and you choose what you're gonna watch at home on stream.
It would just people would treat it so ironically.
Yeah.
I don't know if I could handle it. Because back then there was the anticipation. Is it there? Is it not? Like what's the new copy? Will it be there? Will Ace Ventura be sold out this time? But if you just go see it, like people are like, oh hey, look at that, it's a VHS cassette. Like it's not. No.
There's something I miss about that experience, right?
Yeah.
We'll never have that again.
Never. Listen, if the zombie outbreak happened, I would lock myself in a Blockbuster.
Yeah, that's the move.
I mean, I would run out of food quickly, and I should have picked a Costco, but hey.
Hey, Blockbuster, where you're at.
It's like milk on a hot day.
I really regret this choice.
So Adam, you've been part of MFF because this is a 500 episode week, and I had to have you on because you've been part of MFF since 2018.
Right.
Episode 146, Universal Soldier. My editing was still a little wonky. I was getting there. I was figuring things out, and since then, I was. You know what's though? Your episodes have really slowed down. You've only been on for 29 episodes,
right?
Since 2018. But I want to give you something interesting. In the last 2 years, if we just look at specific movie episodes, you have 2 in the top 10 of most popular in the last 2 years: Walking Tall and Desperado.
Yeah, well, those movies are pretty great.
But Walking Tall blows my mind because it wasn't a hit, and it wasn't a dud. People don't love it. People don't hate it. It's just all mid. I think it's all just people are just like, yeah, Walking Tall. But the episode's hilarious though, so I think that's what's carried it.
And do you think that there's yes, it's an okay movie, but it has the biggest movie star in the history of the planet in it?
Yeah, but it was Young Rock, and Neil McDonough took him to the distance in it. You know what I mean? Schwarzenegger has some movies that people don't really talk about too much. I think Stallone has some movies, like JCVD has movies people don't talk about too much.
That's true.
No one talks about Babylon AD with Vin Diesel. Like Jackie Chan, no one talks about The Medallion. So it's
The Medallion.
Mila Jovovich, no one talks about Ultraviolet. So I think it's just this movie where he's not there yet.
Right. Yeah.
But for some reason it's been listened to a lot. Desperado, I understand, because Desperado's amazing. But
also, I think we were chumming the water for Desperado for years with our throwing knife stories.
Yeah, a lot of. I don't think you get any more Florida than throwing a throwing knife into a palm tree than having it bounce back and land between your bare feet.
Yeah,
bare toes.
Florida thing I've ever heard in my entire life.
That'd be better if it landed on a gator that was right behind me. But so you've been on these episodes. Icebreaker, Youngblood, Steel Dawn, Universal Soldier, Dread, Judge Dredd, Walking Tall, Cliffhanger, Hot Shots Part 2, Predators, Blind Fury, Peter Rabbit, Dog Soldiers, Lady Hawk, Knight Riders, 13th Warrior, Reign of Fire, Constantine, The Quick and the Dead, Soldier, Waterworld, Desperado, Dragonheart, Cold Pursuit, 12 Rounds, Black Dog, Con Air, Die Hard, Street Fighter.
Street Fighter. Got it all in one breath.
I rallied there at the end, man.
Yeah.
I almost blacked out, but I did it. And so I have a question. Since you have the GoFigure YouTube show that is blowing up, and I love the WrestleMania episode with the ring. I love your recent Robin Hood Prince of Thieves episode 2. That made me so happy. Every time I put it on, Megan always stops and goes, "Wait, what? What's he designing on? Is he using that to design? Like that's like she's like a lot of people who do like fabrics and like you use the cutting. I forget the name of it. Cricut. Yeah, she's like a lot of people do that for like crafting and like he uses it as a Cricut machine. So Megan's sitting there dumbfounded by the episodes, and it's lovely. You create something, but if you had to create anything, any set, so you have to one scene from all of these movies, and you could create 3D print. I know you could go to all the flea markets, all the shops, buy similar figures because they all have the same molds and create a scene. I have a scene I would want from you to create.
Okay.
The kitchen fight from Icebreaker.
Yeah. That would be fun because you could do lots of like breakaway tables and like spring-loaded fridge doors and stuff.
Yeah.
It could be a very interactive playset.
And the look of shock. I want the Sean Astin figure just to look horrified.
Yeah. Well, he would have, remember the Ghostbusters where they would like spin their heads around and look scared?
Yeah.
So that's what he would. He'd squeeze his legs together and he'd scream like, like.
And he could eat too.
Yeah.
In between fights.
Yeah. He comes with a tray of burgers, mountain burgers.
And the cheating thing, is that Bruce Campbell is in it, the bald Bruce Campbell.
Right.
So we're cheating because he wasn't part of the kitchen fight, but we could have Sean Astin versus Bruce Campbell in a kitchen to recreate the Icebreakers. And I would also like a snowmobile.
Oh yeah, so there'd be a snowmobile toy that would come like a vehicle that would come with it.
Yeah.
Absolutely. That's a no-brainer.
That's the one I want. But all these movies, which if you had a GoFigure episode where you could create a scene from one of these movies, one.
Yeah. So I feel like it's a bit cliche because we've talked about it so many times. So I have the one that I think I would want to make, but I also have the one I think would be the most fun. So I think I would make the supermarket with all the like dying Unisouls, right? And you have Dolph Lundgren there, and you could have in 1998 WWF figures came out with the entrance stage called the Titantron, and every figure had a chip in their foot. And when you put that figure on the Titantron, it would play their specific music, and so it would come down to the ring. So I would have a gimmick like that, like a little chip in all the feet, and as they walked, they would hear different quotes from the movie. Eddie, soldier, and then like that kind of thing. So it could be that way. But I think the most fun toy would be a cliffhanger set where it comes with like sides of a mountain, and you put lines across it, and you gotta get your guy across without falling down and like dropping people off. Like I think that would be the most fun for kids to play with.
Yeah, that'd be pretty amazing. No one would buy the kitchen set, but I would be very happy with it.
No, I would buy it, and you would buy it, and we would sell too, and then the company would go under.
I think Dog Soldiers would be a cool one if you could get a house and open it up, and inside the house you could have werewolves versus Marines. Yeah,
and what I would do is you have the figures and you clip the werewolf fur onto them. Like, right, so you don't know, every time you play, you don't know which humans are going to be the Dog Soldiers this time. Who was bit? We don't know. You clip the stuff on the figures you need. So yeah, so cowboy toys are fun. I just did a Brave Star video where I rescued a couple of broken down Brave Stars and actually finished out the entire line on my collection. But I made a couple versions of them that kind of were based on the good, the bad, and the ugly. Yeah, cowboy toys are a lot of fun. And so the Quick and the Dead would be a really cool toy line. You could do like you could have a module on the street where you put them down, and then you could see which guy draws his gun first. We could turn it like that actual quick draw game.
You like pull their feet together or something, and then they pull their arms up. I could finally have a Keith David figure. That'd be awesome.
You could have a Keith David. So my son has discovered Keith David and David Keith because my kids are rewatching Gargoyles.
Oh man.
Yeah. So he's getting into like voice actors now. So
remember when that VHS came out of Gargoyles? I think came with Pogs. Yeah. Was it Pogs that they came with?
It sure was.
Yeah, that was pretty intense. Because I remember watching Gargoyles and thinking someone died in the first episode. Did someone die in the first episode of Gargoyles?
They don't pull any punches.
Yeah.
They kill all the gargoyles in the first episode.
I remember being a kid and going, this is legit.
Yeah. And it still had that Disney aesthetic. Like it still looked like a Disney animation. So you're like, this is Disney. But then they were like, they pulled no punches. There was one episode where a gargoyle shot the girl cop.
Wow.
He's watching a John Wayne movie and he pulled out her gun and was playing with it and shot her. Like they went for it.
So they're teaching you about gun violence.
Teaching you about gun violence. There was, to speak of that, to go back to Brave Star, there was an episode of Brave Star where a young girl died of a drug overdose in the cartoon show.
Jeez Louise.
Yeah, and they're like, listen, kids, don't do drugs. You see, it didn't work out well for Emily here. Like it was really, really hard hitting. But yeah, no, Quick and the Dead could be a great toy line.
And like, okay, if I could have specific figures, what about like if I could have specific figures? If I could ask you, be like, hey, Adam, I would like 5 figures for you to go and make an amazing video of. Right. I think I would ask for, okay, this is tough. This is really tough. I would go for Keith David from Quick and the Dead.
Yep.
I would go for McConaughey from Reign of Fire, Beowulf from 13th Warrior. Let's see. I would go for...
Remember when Lord of the Rings came out and all those figures were coming out, like you saw them at all the cons?
Yeah.
And they had that big box set of the entire Fellowship of the Ring.
Mm-hmm.
Imagine that kind of box set of the 13 Warriors.
That'd be amazing. With
right?
Like shovels and mud and decapitations and that spider lady.
The box window could be the fence that they make, like with the...
Oh man, that'd be. And also, I do want a Patrick Swayze dancing figure from Steel Dawn.
Yep, the dance kick.
I tell people all the time that they didn't have time to train him, so they just had him do dance moves with the sword, and no one believes me.
No, so there was a line of figures that came out in, I think 1991 called Karate Fighters, and they were kind of like Rock'em Sock'em Robots, but instead of pushing buttons that punched, you spun them, like we put them on a thing, and then you would spin the thing, and the guy would spin around. But his legs were on such swivels that they would like do roundhouse kicks to each other.
Whoa!
And you see which one got kicked off the platform first. So we could make Steel Dawn like that, like Karate Fighters like that, where they just spin around doing dance kicks.
Oh, that'd be amazing.
Right?
Oh, and also I would love to have a Jaimin Hunsu Constantine one.
Yep.
Because he's so underrated. Jaimin Hunsu. Twice nominated for Oscars. He said he still has to fight for good pay. He's been nominated for 2 Oscars. He's been in multiple billion-dollar grossing films, Best Picture winners, and he's like, yeah, I got to fight for pay. So yeah, give me something Midnight, right? Papa Midnight?
Yeah.
Yeah. I want one of those. Now I'm not just like dumping requests on you here because I had you do something. I dropped something on you, Adam.
You did.
I had you come up with the MFF podcast toy line.
Right.
So I want you to walk me through what you think this wildly popular toy line would be.
You and I have in the past done episodes based on very, very, very true and real movies, for sure, 100%. And
Lady
in those,
Hawk.
Yeah, but we've also done like Sharks in Sweden,
yes,
right? Like
fake
very
movies,
real movies. But I wanted to come at this in a very earnest way, like as if I was pitching it for real, right? Like as if you were Super 7 or Hasbro or some kind of company where you're like, hey, podcasting is huge. We haven't put any like there are toys of YouTubers out there now. Like Steven Universe has some toys out there. There's Funko Pops of a bunch of YouTubers. I actually think we're at the level of Funko Pops right now where one day we'll be in a store and be like, hey, look, there's me, Funko Pop. Just it'll have random people because they just do everybody.
You just turn around and they're all around you.
And you're like, hey, Mom, I found your Funko Pop at the store. And she's like, what's a Funko Pop? I'm like, exactly.
Mama Hodgins.
Mama Hodgins. But I think podcasting is the medium that has maybe grown in the last 10 years.
Yeah.
Right? Like for a while there, it was like Kevin Smith was doing a podcast and everybody else was like, what's a podcast? Like what? We listen to the man talk. I don't understand this. And now it's like there's so many different podcasts out there and there's like really great content because there's this thing. So people are listening to you and I have a conversation right now. And there's a weird intimacy that happens to hear 2 people having a conversation, right? You feel like you're the third person listening to that conversation and you're part of what's going on. and with the way people can interact through comments and whatnot, that's not that far from reality. So podcasting is a thing that I don't think has been marketed other than just listen to the podcast. That there is no like merch for, unless you go do a live recording of one. So I was like, how would I pitch it? How would I pitch it? That to say like podcasting is a valid way to get merchandise out there, and MFF is definitely the one you want to start with. So like, how am I going to get down that road? See, I looked at it and I said, we kind of need to understand how action figures are marketed and sold and distributed. There's a whole plethora to it. And there's really two kinds of action figures out there. There is the action figures that are designed for kids and kids need to play with. And there's the action figures that are designed for like the adult collector, right? So like if you want to have a, Captain Ron, there it is, a Captain Ron figure, like that's not going to appeal to kids. Like no kid is going to say, Mom, I want a Captain Ron action figure. So it's going to be a smaller production run, and you're not going to get any shelf space in a mass market retail. If it's going to be in Target or Walmart or GameStop, it's got to appeal to kids. Like that's just kind of what needs to happen. And that's where you see like a line like Marvel Legends or the Star Wars Black series, is that adult collectors like them and will buy them, but kids also do as well, right? So it needs to be able to be sold to kids. So then I said to myself, well, how do I sell kids? How do I sell kids a line of movies, films, and flicks action figures? Right? Because for this to work in my mind, it needs to be at mass retail. Like for this to be wildly popular, people need to see us in the Target shelves. So I said, okay, well, who are our main characters going to be? You got to start with the core. And what the main characters would be yourself, it'd be Meg, and then we would do five characters for the first wave, because there has to be a first initial wave, and we do that. So okay, gotta have Mark, gotta have Megan. I'm gonna throw myself in there just because I'm putting it together, so I'm gonna be a little bit egotistical. John Levingood I'm gonna put in there because I think he was the guy that I collaborated with. Yep. Right, and then I was tempted to put Phil in there, but I think Phil is a second wave guy because he kind of came in a little later on in the run. So I was saying we should put I'm forgetting his name now.
David Cross?
David Cross, the hot dog guy.
Yep. Award winners.
The Oscar award winners. And so David Cross, John Levingood, Mark Hoffmeyer, Megan Hoffmeyer, and Adam Hodgins will be wave one. And so our figures will be very detailed to be, they will look kind of comparable to like a Black Series or a Marvel Legend, but they won't be as articulated because we don't need to be posed around very much. So the average kind of modern 6-inch action figure right now has about 32 points of articulation. We're going to cut that right down to maybe 8. So we'll have shoulders, head, knee, waist, maybe elbows. So we can pose us and we're going to look good, but we're not going to be Spider-Man hanging from the building because we don't need to be. We don't need to be. And then there's going to be a set, a play set, which is just a podcast studio with 2 computers. So you can slip in whatever background you want so you can see that we're podcasting together. And if you were a fan of the show, if you're a fan of movies, films, and flicks, those figures would be like, yeah, I have all my favorite hosts. I can put them up there. I can kind of see what they look like. It's going to be great. But that's not a line that's going to sell to mass market. Like that's not a huge thing. So then I was like, well, what does sell right now? Because you see movie lines comes and go for kids. And so what's been a constant in the toy shelf, say for the last 10 years, that's consistently performed consistently. And so I was like, well, Pokemon cards are kind of this consistent through the year, right? Like they just like the idea of buying a blind package, opening up and seeing what you get. So I came up with this idea, and now it's something that I don't think has ever been done before, but I'm going to throw it out there. And I think as this started off to be a very funny thing, I think this could be a legit thing for Mark. So when you buy the Mark Hoffmeyer action figure, the Mark Hoffmeyer, you're laughing, but it's the Mark Hoffmeyer 6-inch highly detailed action figure. It comes in the bottom of the package with 3 blind boxes that you don't see what's in them. And inside those blind boxes are small, like mask-sized action figures. So like 2-inch figures, little figures. And they're generic world builders. So they'll be like ninjas and soldiers and policemen and lawyers and cooks and garbage men. So you can then pull these random characters as you collect the Movies, Films, and Flicks crew. You're building your world, and then you get to act out the movie they're podcasting about.
Oh.
Right? So they're like, oh, like they're talking about Universal Soldiers. So you got to, now we're not going to call them Universal Soldiers because we don't want to pay licensing, but we have some generic army guys there. So they can be the bad guys in The Rock. They can be Universal Soldiers. They can be the mercenaries in Die Hard 2. Like you can have them be whatever line the soldiers need. Then you have like your ninjas or your barbarians or your Vikings. But every figure, you get random ones that come out. And in that, we put some very rare chase figures in there. So there'd be a guy who looks just like John Wick. We don't call him John Wick, but it's clearly John Wick. He's rare, right? We have a guy who's half robot, half man, like a Terminator, and he's very, very rare. So what you're going to get is people buying 2 or 3 Mark Hofmeyers to try and get these collectible figures that the kids are going to want to collect and kids are going to want to play with.
Wow.
So that's the genesis of the idea.
So our characters are kind of Trojan horsing in collectibles.
Our characters are for the adult collector to have the guys he listens to on the podcast on his shelf. The blind box are to get the kids to buy it so they can build their small world and play. Maybe they don't even care about the podcast, but they play with these little cool figures that come with it, and they say, oh, this is the Movies, Films, and Flicks guys. And maybe they don't even know it's a podcast, Mark. Maybe just think that these guys are in movies, there's in films, and they're in flicks. And these are the ninjas, these are the samurais, these are the spacemen that we have. These are the monsters, the werewolves that we collect and build this world. Kind of like Micro Machines. You built this little world of all these little characters. And then when they turn 13, 14, they realize that movies are like a thing and they start getting into cinema. And they're like, oh, the toys I played with as a kid are actually real guys that talk about the movies that I love. So it becomes a snake eating its own tail situation.
And then the second set would be what? Zenandi, Johnny Norbert.
Well, so here's the thing. You and Megan will be in every set, but you'll just be different color shirt, different deco on your shirts. And that way we need more reason to buy those little characters that are collectible.
Oh,
so we have Mark in an Escape from New York shirt. We've got Mark in a hockey jersey. We've got Mark in a Tim Hortons t-shirt. So each wave there's a Mark and there's a Megan. And then for your co-hosts, we're in every other wave. So wave 2 will be like Phil. It'll be
Zenandi, Norbert, Jay Cluett.
Exactly. And those guys will be in wave 2. And then wave 3, it's Mark and Megan and the first guys again in new deco.
Oh.
So you can build as many Marks as you want. And people will buy those because they can justify it because they want to get the new guys that are coming out in the small high blind packages.
Oh, yeah, we'll have to fit Chris Kelly in there too. He's one of the I love it. This is great.
Right.
So, because a podcast thing on its own is cool, but it's also not,
there's got to be a play pattern there for kids to get involved in.
Mm-hmm.
So the little figures that you build your world with, I think I would be into it as a kid, right?
I love it.
And also the reason I like it is because, and I talk about this all the time on my toy channel is, and this makes me maybe sound like an old man. And now keeping in mind, I'm recording a podcast right now, which people listen to on their phones. But when I see kids on phones at a young age not playing with toys, I'm like, we're really robbing them of the cognitive ability to come up with creative play, to come up with story, to come up with like active as opposed to passive imagination. And so I think that we desperately, if you walk in the toy aisle right now, Mark, if you and I went to Target, or if you came to Canada and we went to Toys R Us where we still have it, we would see Marvel figures, DC figures, Jurassic Park, Ghostbusters. We would see wrestling. We would see, all these Transformers. We'd see He-Man. All these brands that were really around in the early 90s and late 80s. And there's nothing new there because kids aren't playing with toys anymore. The average kid's out of toys at 6 now, as opposed to when we were kids, it was like 11, 12. And so most of those toys are marketed towards you and me, the guys that want to like recapture their youth. So I'm like, what can we do with Movies, Films, and Flicks to make it a collectible line for us, but also a line that gets kids playing again?
Oh, I love it. I envision like little VHS tapes too, but you'd probably get licensing for the movie titles if we did that, and that's too much money. Can't
No,
do that.
so I think everything is like tongue in cheek,
Yeah.
right?
Oh,
Right.
yeah.
And it's all kind of like, remember like the Garbage Pail Kids, they were all kind of like tongue in cheek references to things. So we could have like movie posters that were like, Die Hard and things like that, right? Raining fire instead of rain of fire, like little nods.
I love it. And then you could take it the computers at different sets. We could have a little barbecue set like our Fast and Furious episode.
Every wave comes with a play set for the 6-inch figures and a play set for the 2-inch figures. So like a generic like canyon or cityscape or intersection for those little guys to play in. And so you act out the movie that they're talking about. Oh,
I love it. Get all the MFF characters as figures, and then just chat about movies. I would probably do it too.
And you know what? I think that you could probably sell booster packs of just the little figures on their own as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right?
Like, you know what everyone buys now? Because everyone, like, disposable income, just have a surprise pack.
Right.
Like a box. You can get 3. You don't even know what you're getting.
No, you never know what you're getting. And maybe you're going to get, Wicked John, we'd call him.
Evil Levingood?
Yeah. But no, instead of John Wick, we just call the character Wicked John.
Oh gosh. Instead of Predator, it's like Stalker.
Right. That's, just really, Charlie Norris, things like this, we just kind of get away with.
Charlie Morris. Yeah.
Morris.
Chuck Norris.
We would have in the blind 2-inch figures, it would be a ratio of 1 to 7 of we call it a main character versus like a world builder. So you get like policemen and doctors and firemen and soldiers. Those are world builders. But in the random bin that spits them out, for every 7 one of those, there's one main character who would be like Stalker or, the Termination Bot or, like a main character that we would have.
Oh, I love it. I just want MFF figures.
Right?
Just put them up. That'd be amazing.
It'd be great.
Yeah. Oh gosh.
And then when we start doing live shows, you sell them at the live shows and you sell them out.
Oh, and sell the set that we're on as a special limited, like a limited edition thing.
Well, that would be the thing. So you could say anybody who buys an MFF figure gets their name in a draw for the set that we have on with us right now.
Oh my gosh.
Right? And then you become legendary.
Millionaires.
You're there forever.
You know how many conventions we could run because of this?
So many conventions. I still think that like our convention planning is maybe our strongest suit. What was the like
the billions of dollars in debt?
The party planning that we planned, it was like a Waterworld birthday party.
Oh yeah, that was. We had a huge one, didn't we?
Yeah.
Didn't we have I don't know. We've come up with so many, and Phil too has gone deep in debt with his party planning businesses as well.
Yeah, and his like taxi service.
Yeah, I keep driving my MFF guests into deep debt.
That's
not
fine.
Real debt, but fantasy debt, because our ideas are so insane.
So I'll say this though, my wife in the last 6 months has started a party planning business where they do themed mobile escape rooms, and so she just did a Harry Potter one. So I made a bunch of like snitches for her, and there was like a room full of flying keys and stuff. They kind of went for it. It was great.
Oh, that's fun.
So live the dream, Mark. Live the dream.
You two are crushing it, man. And so if we did an MFF, so if we did the Adam and Mark episode theme park, we would have to hire people to people would dig mud and build fortifications. People would have throwing knives, for sure. They would have an escape room in Con Air.
Yeah.
Let's see. They would... What else?
Bridge, bungee bridge where they run and jump, and so you can get closest to the dragon.
They would have Night Riders just leveling each other.
Yeah.
You know what? You could do a laser tag, but make it like Predators and have just real Yautja in there.
Yeah, that'd be great.
If you survive for 3 minutes.
Really? It's like that's the thing, right?
And we're just arresting people because we're Dredd left and right.
Oh man, I think my favorite episode we've ever done was the Judge Dredd episodes.
I think it's Peter Rabbit because it's 2 hours.
It's 2 hours. It's 2 hours of sheer joy.
Yeah, I think my favorite moment is when I got real pissed at you and Megan because you guys kept going so long for the final fights.
It was supposed to be 20 minutes and we were an hour and 10.
And you and Megan just kept going on. I was like, all right. I became like Papa Hoffmeyer there for a little bit.
About the winch, it's like, well, which winch is the winchiest?
Yeah.
Which winch?
Stop. Have you seen Punch Drunk Love when Philip Seymour Hoffman is just like, shut up, shut up. Like that was, but you two, it was a good episode though. It makes for
Oh
good.
no, that's where the magic happens, right? Shawn Michaels and Razor Ramon went over by 10 minutes in their ladder match in WrestleMania 10, and it stole the show, Mark.
I love it. And I think you and I most times take about 15, 20 minutes to get into our episodes.
If we even get into them.
Yeah.
Sometimes we should talk about this movie a little bit.
I'm pretty sure we have an upcoming episode of Blind Fury that we talked about switchblades for the longest time.
Yeah, I was looking forward to that Blind Fury episode for the longest time, and it has not disappointed at all.
Once I get it edited and live, I think everyone's gonna love it. But no, man, just thank you so much for coming on, developing the MFF toy line.
Yeah, it's just an idea. I thought you asked the question. I was like, it was fun to kind of think like, well, how could this actually happen? Because there's a lot of podcasts out there, and like not any podcast action figures. So we can crack this code, Mark.
Oh, it's gonna work. And like you've been on the show, man, for about 5 years now. So here's to another 5 years.
I can't believe I've been doing this for 5 years. It just feels like I've been hanging out with my buddy.
Yeah.
Movies, right? Like we hit record sometimes. It's been fantastic.
It's
and
awesome.
This whole crazy journey started because I made a Dolph Lundgren 1 poster.
Yeah. Yeah.
We should sell that.
It's kind of crazy that it's nuts though. I think people do come and go out of your life. And I met you at a Comic-Con, and I think sometimes you meet people and you're like, I like this person. It's like,
right.
There's a lot of cool people I met at cons I don't talk to anymore. So like for some reason you and I clicked, worked together a couple of years.
Yeah.
And now we're hanging out.
It's been the best.
Well, we're gonna have you on for a lot more, so don't worry about that out there. We know a lot of people love Adam's episodes, and the chaos he brings. So
that's right.
It's good.
It's a narrow and specific audience that loves the Adam episodes. If they love them, they love them a lot.
But there's what I like. I have so many different guests, and all the episodes are different. So I like that. I like different dynamics. You know me, I don't think I could do the same thing every time. I like a little bit of chaos.
I love it when I can tell you're really trying to corral the conversation, where it's going places, and you're like, okay, we need to kind of rein it in a little bit. Often it's when you're talking to me, but
I'll let it go for 5-10 minutes, and then I'm like, okay.
Yeah.
Let's get it back.
Enough is enough, folks.
Yeah, but I still keep it in.
I don't
edit it out.
It's funny. You often say, I got to go edit this episode. And I was like, what is he edited? It's all there.
It's perfect, baby.
Every cut is the Snyder cut on Movies, Films, and Flicks.
Oh, gosh. Yeah, I slow down everything. I make it 4 hours long.
Yeah.
There's a lot of definitives. It's very black and white.
Yeah. I would love to talk to you about that movie sometime.
The 4 hour long cut?
Yeah.
I mean, I'd be down to talk about the journey. Absolutely. Yeah. I think it'd be a popular episode.
I think so. And I'm one of the very few that like didn't hate the Whedon Justice League.
Oh, that's not a movie. It's not a movie. It's like half and half. And
it's half and half.
And it's just, I feel like I'm a pretty positive dude. And I think when people say they're a pretty positive dude, that sounds weird. But if you've been listening to the podcast, I like to look for the positive. But with Justice League, and I think we've done an episode of it somewhere in the hundreds or 200s, but it's 2 movies and none of them work. So it's really hard for me to get behind it.
I always looked at Justice League, the Whedon cut, as like when your friend comes over as a kid and he's like, hey, let's play He-Man. And then he starts playing much different than you play. And you're like, oh, you're not playing with my toys right. So Josh Whedon got to play with all my favorite toys, but he just did it wrong. I was like, that's not how it goes.
Listen, Batman v Superman made what, 700 mil? Man of Steel made 600, 700 mil. Just let the dude finish his movie. Just let him finish it. Get it over with. I know he had a lot of personal tragedies and he had to step away, but just let him finish his movie. Just let him have it. You're gonna make the money. Move on to another chapter. Done. That's it.
Yeah. I was in for it, but but we should talk about it in long form sometime, Mark.
Absolutely. We have about 7,000 episodes lined up over the years.
We do. There should be you do a lot of crazy movie data. I would love to see somebody else do the data for all the movies we suggested and just haven't done.
I still own Tom and Jerry and Peter Rabbit too, but the problem is we're like kids in a candy shop. Yeah, we should do that. Yeah, we should do that. But then we both have lives and we're very busy, and then we forget because we don't write it down. Yeah,
remember when we did Die Hard on Christmas Eve?
Yeah.
And then we did the list. What would be your 5 top cops to be on your team? And Megan picked Judy Hopps, and it killed me. It just cracked me. I couldn't compose myself live. I was just dying.
That was a great pick.
That was a great pick.
Yeah, Die Hard, that was a good episode. But yeah, I mean, we might have to bring you back for another classic or whatever. I don't really care. You know I'm up for anything. I brought you
Yeah,
in for a MFF toyline episode.
I think, yeah, and oftentimes, and I've said this before, my favorite thing is when you're like, what do you want to do? I'm like, hey, Mark, have you seen Youngblood? And you're like, I haven't seen that. I'm like, I'm going to make Mark watch a movie he's never seen before.
And I had
Those
to
are
buy, and you can't rent anywhere.
Yeah, you can't rent this Canadian hockey movie from '86 starring Rob Lowe.
That's what MFF people like, though. Like, we have weird listenership. And not weird, we have amazing. I guess when I say the word weird, I mean more, I could never predict what's going to be the most popular episode. Like, Barb and Star's blowing up right now. The Dead Don't Die is blowing up. Like, I don't think I could ever predict what's going to be the hit.
When you and I were in high school and we wanted to be like know movies and like we loved movies and we wanted to learn about like cinema and the history of cinema and like we had to work. We had to go and like dig for it and go to VHS stores and like before the internet was really a thing, like research, like, you know, just watch stuff, just pick up what is Don the Dragon Wilson. We're going to watch this and see what's going on. Like you need to piece together this VHS history of movies kind of by yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like we're in a world now where people are like, oh, I really like cinema, like John Wick and the Avengers. Like there's all these like big movies that people are easily like attainable and learn a lot about. But I think Movies and Films and Flicks is a place where we can talk about, Braxis, and we can, we can talk about Youngblood, and there's a spot for these obscure movies where we're not making fun of them, but we're going at them with like genuine, like, I like these movies for what they are. Blind Fury is a perfect example. No one's going to say best movie ever, Blind Fury, but I can say I really liked Blind Fury when I was a kid. Let's go back and revisit it.
The one thing I like is so many people watch Blind Theory and they're like, this is dumb. I'm like, yeah, but they knew that. Like You have to think about it in context of what it is. And in context, it's a fun movie. Like it's a successful film.
After we recorded it, I have pitched many people that were around in the 80s that Blind Fury could have been the Daredevil of the Dolph Lundgren Punisher universe.
Oh.
Right? And people are like, yeah, that makes sense.
Hauer and Lundgren together. They both know swords.
Yep.
Oh, we need to do the Punisher. I want to do Punisher 89.
Have you done any of the Punishers?
No.
I want to do them all.
So like 111.
111.
Okay, so not like all 3 in one. Series.
No. A series.
Okay, you want to do the series next?
Yeah, let's do that.
All right. And then we're doing Tom and Jerry.
Right.
You're not stoked for that one.
No, I am stoked for it. You know why I'm stoked for it? Because you love it. You're like so jazzed about Tom and Jerry. It's like when I suggested to you Peter Rabbit, you're like, let's do this. Let's go into this world.
Tom and Jerry is a very interesting world.
Yes.
Like Chloe Grace Moritz lies her way into being an event planner, and Michael Pena's there, but then she gets a mouse to help, and then she tries to get a cat to catch him, and there's really wonky ethics.
But I think it's on the nose what Tom and Jerry cartoons used to be.
It's just
right?
It's an odd film.
Faithful to the source material.
It's an odd film, and we're going to talk about it after our Punisher series,
right,
which we won't forget.
No, Punisher next, Lundgren next.
I love it. Well, hey man, thank you so much. And where can people find you?
Yeah, so you can go check out GoFigure on YouTube, and also on Instagram there. Also, I'm doing a bi-weekly show where we spin it around 3 other channels. So there's GoFigure, Sergeant Slaughter Slaughterhouse, and Treasures for Triggers. And every other Tuesday morning we do Mo Tuesdays, where we take a deep cut look at one of the waves of figures from the Masters of the Universe Classics line, like the classic line, and then compare it to the modern re-release of it. And so we kind of do some deep dives there. And we got some cool guests coming up. We have a new guest on it every week with us. And so we rotate it. So 1 week it'll be on my channel, then it'll be on Slaughterhouse, then it'll be on Treasures for Triggers, and we kind of rotate it like that, just to have some fun with some great people. And so that's what goes on there. And I also run on Sergeant Slaughterhouse a monthly like trivia games night. So if you want to come check out his channel, I'll be there the last Saturday of every month doing a vintage retro trivia night, which is always a lot of fun.
Dude, you're blowing up, man. I love it.
I don't know if we're blowing up, but we're sure keeping busy.
Well, yeah, but you have the part you have a good show. It keeps growing. You're sticking with it. You're meeting some cool people. You're blowing up, man.
Yep. And if you're going to be at G.I. Joe Fest this year, I'm traveling from Canada down to Georgia to go hang out at Joe Fest for a couple of days.
And we're gonna see you. We're gonna have the meetup.
Yeah, it's gonna be great.
All right. Well, the henchmen are gonna be together. It's gonna be good.
You gotta steal some syrup.
All right, man. Well, hey, thank you so much for joining me.
Been a pleasure.
All right. So for me, Mark Hoffmeyer, for Adam Hodgins, this is Movie Sons of Flicks. We'll see you next week.